welcome to the Power of 1 Million. Welcome back. You guys know that we're here to inspire. We want to show you people that have made $1 million of something, whether that's $1 million or $1 million downloads or 1 million followers. I just want you to see that it's possible and see other people that are doing it. So today I'm so excited to welcome Marshawn here.
Yay. I'm glad to be here.
Oh my gosh, when you guys hear her story and even hear you made $2 million in an hour.
It happened.
Oh my gosh. Can't wait to jump into this. Let's go.
Yes.
So, Marshawn, will you just tell the people first, like, who are you?
Oh, wow. That's always the hardest question, but as a brand strategist, I should be able to do this. So I am a reinvention strategist for women. I help them to upgrade their income and their influence while also helping them to upgrade their walk with God. And I believe that the Proverbs 31 woman has really been under-discipled. Our ambition as women has been shamed. Our desire for more, we have this kind of tug of war. So for those who believe in God but think maybe wanting more and they feel guilty for that, I want people to understand that business has always been God's business, and that if we come from a place of riches and glory, that we should experience heaven on earth, and we should be the examples of that as opposed to hiding that. So we're getting rid of a lot of the spiritual garbage and activating and operating in spiritual abundance, mind, heart, soul, all the things.
Yeah, and it's so true. I feel like sometimes people feel like if you're a follower of God, then you're meant to suffer. But God also wants joy and happiness and abundance for his people.
Yeah,
So
he's got bad branding. A lot of believers have given God very bad branding around a lot of rules. Right? So one of the things I write about in my book, Believe Bigger, are these stages we go through in life. In this first stage of discovery, we're trying to figure out who we're supposed to be. And what society tells us, our family tells us, the media, and even our spiritual leaders tell us, put things in. Well, the word eduseer is the root word of the word education. You're a teacher.
I'm like, okay, eduseer.
Eduseer really doesn't mean to put in, it means to draw out. And so people put all of these things in us and they form us in their fears, in the image of their fears, their faults, and the things that they didn't do, couldn't do. And they believe they're trying to protect us. They think they're passing down wisdom, but a lot of times it's wounds. But we've got to forgive those who came before us because they gave us as best as they could. But I do believe we are first generation having the opportunity to create and really make manifest the glory of God in every area, including in business. When we're successful, the Bible calls it victory. We call it in the business world results and profits. It's the same thing. He always intended for that. But we have to realize that we cannot take some of the things that got us here. Like you can't take your Egypt mind into your promised land.
Ooh.
And so we've got to reinvent, taking the heart behind what our ancestors gave us, but recognizing that we are their dream and they couldn't even see what we have an opportunity to create, which is why I'm so proud of you. Because you're creating what is beyond their prayer, beyond their comprehension. And you are an example of what does it look like to gain a great skill set, to be someone who's a good steward of their craft, where you're not just a believer. The problem with so many believers is we don't know how to build anything.
Yep.
If you only believe, what you believe you build, what you doubt you delay.
Say that again. What you
believe you build,
what you doubt
you delay. So we're talking about all of these things that we say we believe in, but we have no evidence of it, so people don't believe believers. They don't believe it because you haven't built it. You look at Noah. Noah was actually building something, and people still didn't believe him, but he was protected because he built something. And this season, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that our economic global climate is going to have some kind of a shift, because the jobs that left with the pandemic in 2020 are not coming back. The workforce is changing. We haven't adjusted to the future yet. The digital currencies are coming in. We don't know what to pay attention to, but there's going to be a shift. And I've taught for over a decade now that you have to build your ark before the rain.
Yep.
You have to build your ark before the rain. You've got to get a new skill set. You've got to, and most people are more prophetic than they realize. They just don't trust God enough to take a step towards what it is that they only have a sense of and they can't fully see because they've never done it before. Noah had to trust.
That's faith too, right?
That's
Being
faith.
able to believe what you can't see.
And he was protected in what I believe teaching financial and income literacy, not just financial literacy, but also income. How do you make more so you can invest and save? I think for me, teaching business acumen and income literacy is part of how I can help to teach people to build their ark before the rain. But even with that, it doesn't matter how much faith you have for somebody else. If they don't have a good, healthy self-image, they'll never find enough value to start investing in themselves, to start doing the work, to start building. Yeah. We'll just name it, frame it, claim it, and talk about it.
And then just not make it happen.
Not make it happen, or say, I'm waiting on God, I'm waiting on this, or it's just not my time yet. We'll come up with all these excuses, or we'll major in the minor.
Yep.
We'll start going out and trying to just be social media famous and be an influencer without any income. And we don't develop a wealthy, mature business mind. Yeah. We just want to look cute on the gram. And even today, I wonder why so many thought leaders, coaches, gurus, experts, and particularly, this is not with, I feel like a lot of programs are starting to look like rap music videos. Like, look at what I got. Look at this car.
The lifestyle branding.
The lifestyle branding, but it's to a point where I feel like it's costing the depth of people developing the being to be able to maintain it. I used to manage NFL and NBA players. Started my own business, signed the highest paid defensive end in the NFL. He was my first client. Wow. At 27. I'm only a year and a half out of law school. I left my law firm because they said I was too young to represent and work with athletes, so I started my own. And he had a $62 million 7-year deal. He's my first client. He could have gone with any of the big agencies that had millions of dollars to throw under the table. And what I learned in working with NFL and NBA players is that when you put money in a person that has a hole in their mind, and usually it's a lot of times with athletes, they come from single parent homes. Yeah. They don't necessarily have a lot of financial literacy training. And then we've got the celebrities, the athletes, and the music stars flossing, so they think they have to do that. And I've seen so many guys lose a massive amount of money.
Ton. Well, and here, let's come back to that, because I do want people to know your story before we get into like where you've gone. So, question for you, but please tie this into your story. You said that when you doubt, you delay.
Yes.
Has there been a time in your life where you doubted and it delayed your progress?
Oh, never. I've always had great belief. Before we hopped on camera, I said, everyone struggles with belief, regardless of levels. And I think if you learn from somebody who says they've never doubted, then I don't believe they're a safe teacher. I really believe that. I feel like it is ego that says that. Yeah. Because that means you're not human. For me, when I started in 2010, I was teaching people how to build their platforms. So I had been on the Apprentice. I had been in the Miss America competition. I was on the Apprentice 10 out of 13 weeks. That means I almost won. Not quite, but I was there. And then Miss America, I was a runner-up at Miss America, won talent and interview. I paid my way through law school at Georgetown with 0 loans. I paid my way through college doing coaching. Actually, I didn't really realize it was coaching then. I was helping Miss America, Miss USA contestants prepare for competition. So when I won the interview competition at Miss America, everyone said, well, how did you do that? They started picking my brain. Today I teach that you don't have to be 3,000 steps ahead. If you've done something, there's usually someone who's coming up right behind you. And so I just noticed people were asking questions. I held a seminar, and then and I didn't have to have a job to try to get through law school. I had a coaching practice. Okay. In 2002, right? Some of them watching are like, I was in junior high school.
Well, and the thing is, like, this is 2022. Yes. So that's a full
Oh my
20
gosh,
years.
I just realized. That's right.
But
thank you for color.
I'm sorry, but you started. No, that means that you got experience, and like that's who we need to learn from. People who have experience and they've been in the game for a minute. Like,
I wasn't trying to coach. I was trying to pay my bills.
Yeah.
I was trying to help people, and I don't like being employed by somebody else.
I agree with that.
I don't like
I share
it.
that sentiment.
But I love helping people. And I didn't realize until later in teaching about gifts and understanding your spiritual gifts, which I think makes you a better entrepreneur when you understand what you're really doing, what people see you're doing versus what you're really doing. If you think about an iceberg and you see all the depth underneath, the spiritual gifts are what help you to anchor what you're really doing. The top surface are the things that people, that's what you market.
Yeah.
But in doing that, I realized I didn't know I had a supernatural gift for messaging. It made sense. The reason I got $200,000 in scholarships in school was because I was great with words.
You knew how to put the message together.
Words, but how to speak visionary language that invites people into a mission. That's how I got the highest paid defensive end in the NFL as my first client with no clients, no experience. And then my agency grew to be the fastest growing woman-owned sports agency in less than a year. I'm in my 20s.
Wow.
And Rolls-Royce was my first corporate client, and then Tiffany and Company. And so I worked with the biggest companies in the world, from HP, Office Depot, Ernst & Young, Delta Airlines, Pitney Bowes, Morgan Stanley, McDonald's. Nike brought me to their headquarters to speak to their employees about branding.
I love it.
Right? So but it's messaging. And I think for all of us, we can look back at our lives in these different stages we go through, and there are signs about what your superpowers are. Right? I think you have your superpower is beyond your skill, and I know I'm getting to know you, but there's such a warmth that comes from you. That is your ultimate, one of those things it's a superpower. Oh, I love that. You can't go to school for that. That's God-given. I always say money is man-made, prosperity is God-given. The prosperity comes from the superpower. Money is always going to be whatever currency, whether it's crypto, whether it's stocks, whether it's cash, whether it's coins, that's still man-made. But how to be able to multiply it, think about the parable of the talents.
Right.
That's God-given. It's a mindset, it's a spirit set, it's believing in who you are, how you're made, because then you can be given anything.
Yeah. And for those that don't know about the parable of the talents, there's a master who comes and he gives one servant 5 talents, another servant 2, and then one servant 1. And the one with the 5 and the 2, they double their money. And the Bible says they actually traded with them. So I always get excited because trading's in the Bible. But they actually double their money. And later the master comes back and says, well done, my good and faithful servant. You've made a few things and you've been faithful over a few things. And then he blesses them with more. But there's one that only has 1 talent. He goes and digs it in the dirt and hides it because he's afraid of the master. So he just wants to be able to give the master back his exact change. And the master's like, you lazy servant, what in the world are you doing? Like, if you knew who I was and you knew that I could make something out of nothing, I'm paraphrasing y'all, but you would have known to at least invest this and make it grow a little bit, get some interest, but you didn't try it all because of your fear.
The fear.
So
the frequency of fear lessens, blocks, and it reduces our lives in so many ways. So to answer your question, yes, I've operated in doubt before. And when you're getting started in something new, you're not supposed to be as confident as you would be on day one. Yeah. So anytime, even as you level up to different levels, what was normal is not normal when you're going to create a new normal. And doubt is not a sign of incapability. It's actually a sign that you're on the right track. It's really about reframing. How do we talk to ourselves about ourselves?
Okay.
Am I worthy of this? And the doubt is the question where you're being asked the question, actually, do I really believe I'm worthy of this?
Now, how does that then delay you when you're not sure that you're worthy?
You do everything else. You'll go do social media. You'll go get busy. And you'll say, I don't have time to do the thing I'm really called to do. I don't have time to do the thing I really want to do. I don't have time to do the thing I really need to do, because you've created a reason to, you've given what I call you rationalize it. But rationalizing is rational lies.
Wow.
They make sense, right? And we know exactly what to say to get people to leave us alone. If I say, oh, I'm feeding the kids, that's true. And it will be like, oh, people will back off. Or here's a really good one, the sophisticated one from the believers. They say, I got to pray about it.
I knew you were going to say that.
I got to pray about it.
I'm praying about it. The Lord hadn't said anything yet. I'm praying about it.
Well, okay, so from my understanding, God never stops talking. From my understanding, the Holy Spirit never stops moving. And if this relationship with God is that important, you probably have already been praying about it or should have been praying about it so that you can actually see your help when it arrives. This is why we miss it. It's not that it's not being sin. It's not that we're even waiting on God. We are so drenched in our formed identity, we can't even see the invitations to step into our born identity.
Yeah. One of my friends, he was supposed to move to Dallas, and I think he'll be okay with me sharing this, but he had one friend that said, oh, wow, something about Dallas. And then he said, oh, well, I'm praying about it. He called me, I'm praying about it. Another person comes along, job offer, Dallas. Something else comes along, Dallas. Still, I'm praying about it. And it's like, I think God has shown you.
So you're nice when you say it. She smiles through the dysfunction. She's like, yeah. For me, I think, and I have learned, it was really challenging for me in the beginning of teaching people to build, high profile businesses, generate high profile income. And then when I started just praying more, which at my first event, I was nervous to just pray in 2010. And now we have had events where we're supposed to be doing brand makeovers, and we have people that just come up for prayer. The Holy Spirit has broken out at our events.
Oh, wow.
We've had people from different races. I remember one year the tech guy, turns out he was a minister in his church over the music ministry. So our sound guy ends up being the worship leader for a nighttime that's supposed to be business and branding makeovers. And that was a 7-figure generating event. It was okay for us to pause from the strategy, the business, branding, marketing, and sales to take care of people's hearts and their souls for a minute, because it doesn't matter what you know if you don't have the knowing with a capital N.
Explain that more.
Like, if I can teach you business, a strategy, how to launch, how to position yourself, how to find what I call money messaging, magnetic messaging, but you don't believe you're actually good enough to go do this work. You're here, you've got one foot on the brake, one foot on the gas, and James, the Bible calls us being double-minded.
Wow.
Right? And so you can get this, but then you will self-sabotage, or you will just delay and sit on it, or you'll just say, I got to go feed the kids. Well, I've seen people who had to go feed the kids, and they built a massive empire too. But when you begin to believe, I really believe God reorganizes the whole world. He reorganizes the universe. I believe, from my perspective of a God of the universe, He reorganizes everything, because now you're serious.
Yeah, now you're ready to build.
Now you're ready to build. Things start, you've ever realized when you make a decision, things start happening? Even before, I've seen people invest in one of our programs, and even before we get started, they start getting more clients because your mind shifted. I have an acronym for when you say yes, Y-E-S, your experience shifts. God starts when you do.
Wow.
The investment, the Bible also says where your treasure is, your heart is also. This is why it is important for those who are on the path to make millions in terms of millions of dollars. You cannot operate at a thousandaire lifestyle or a mindset. I shouldn't say lifestyle, because I don't want people to think it's about spending. But there is a huge thing. The reason why I love charging more is because I love seeing people get actual results.
Yes.
And when they make an investment, there's something that changes in you. You should feel it. If you don't feel it, you don't need to invest with me. You don't need to invest with anybody, because you're going to treat it like a subscription Netflix service where it's just there in case you want to visit it one day. But when you put a premium investment in, you show up. And it's also a statement. I think if you're wanting to be wealthy, you shouldn't be learning from people who are cheap. I don't believe people who charge low prices for business or wealth training. I don't believe them.
Okay, tell me more about offers, because it seems like we're going into this direction. So yes.
Hold on. Let me brush just a little bit.
Flex a little bit.
I like a good pricing upgrade.
Well, and real quick, before we go into offers, is Godfidence part? I've heard you say Godfidence before. Is that part of the believing to build, or can you explain that real quick before we go into offers? 'Cause I feel like offers is going to be a whole shift.
Good point. So I've been teaching on the Godfidence mindset since 2003.
Okay.
Since 2003, it is trademarked. Which other camera?
Trademark.
This one too. Trademarked. And we spent a lot of money on cease and desist letters.
Wow.
But we own the federal trademarks in multiple categories for Godfidence.
Don't touch that word, y'all.
But I wrote my book, Believe Bigger, instead of calling it Godfidence, so that it would reach a broader audience. But our theme, when I started my coaching company, it was called Me University. And we rebranded to the Godfidence Business School, the Godfidence Institute and Business School. That was the year that first year, we did $1 million in the first quarter. Nice. And then that next year, we did $2 million in an hour.
Wow.
In an hour. And and I remember seeing, because my initials, my maiden name is Evans, so seeing my initials on the stage, ME University, I remember standing at the foot of the stage, this diversity of experience where people are learning about business and sales and also feeling like they could have their spiritual life nurtured, but amplified. I don't believe in wimpy prayers. I don't believe in wimpy belief. I don't think there's anything wimpy. And it's partly because I grew up around boys. I have only brothers, and I was a competitor, and I think women have been taught not to have a victorious, winning, champion mindset. Like, it's okay to think like that.
And see, my God is a conqueror, so if I'm like my God, then I'm a conqueror too.
Yes. You're so elegant with it. I'm like, we supposed to go out here. We supposed to be out here. And so the Godfidence mindset, we start all of our business seminars with the Godfidence mindset.
Okay.
And our tagline has always been believe bigger, live bolder. The word Godfidence, how I define it, literally means to move forward. If you believe it, you enter it. If you don't, you do. And the word decide is, I define that word as to enter.
Okay.
So we try to help people to gain a new language, because our words have power, but if we're speaking the words that have conditioned our formed identity, we need language that aligns with our born identity. I call it destiny language.
Okay.
And so the Godfidence, but it also showed me like it's okay to operate in your faith in business, and that's when we really crossed over. It was a tipping point. However, I was called that. I don't think everyone should do that if they're not called to do it.
Okay.
Some people do it because it's more comfortable, because they don't want to go, they feel like it's more comfortable to talk to other believers. But if that's not your assignment, that's not going to be blessed.
And it won't be more comfortable. I feel like you'll still not be happy in that. You'll still feel like you're in the wrong spot.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And we launched a membership program last year. This is something I delayed for 5 years because, one, I didn't know how to not charge a price that had a comma.
Yeah.
So
like less than 1,000 then?
Yes.
Anything less than a comma?
Yes, that's less than a comma. And it is, and the word less is not in my vocabulary. I don't even like it's a 4-letter word. Okay. Literally, L-E-S-S. So it took me a while, but when all I did was I felt led to host this Bible study. I've been wanting to teach about destiny. I've written these books, Believe Bigger. Our devotional 100 Days of Believing Bigger is constantly in the top 1,000 books on all of Amazon for 2 years. I wrote it when I was pregnant with triplets. Wow. And the testimonies, and I get bigger royalty checks from that than the other books that I've written from writing a devotional. Wow. And I just felt led to do it. And I believe it is important to still, even with success, to pause and operate in obedience still. You never want God to take the grace off the thing that's paying you well, because you won't do the thing that he needs you to enter into. And it doesn't mean that it won't be even bigger and more prosperous. And so I paused. I did this Bible study, 3 days, no ads, no fancy. I said, hey, I'm doing this Bible study called Supernatural Alignment. We had the women shared this all over the world. It was massive. So for me, it was a big eye opener, and that I said, we are not talking about money today. We are not talking about how to make more. I said, I want you to commit to doing 100 days of just going after the Holy Spirit while you're building all your other things, running your families, building your businesses and all that. I said, but this one environment for me, we're going to focus on building it just has been the most enjoyable thing. But the testimonies. Wow. And women are starting new businesses. Like I know there's always room to anchor things and building up our Godfidence mindset, that soil, when we retail the soil, then it's limitless soil. So everything grows better. You're going to have better relationships. You're going to have more healing. We're going to have more miracles. We're going to have more money. We're going to have more business. All of it comes from that. So Godfidence is the baseline of everything. And, knowing your voice, knowing your values is essential to being able to operate in the vision that heaven has for you.
Okay. I want to switch to offering, but or offers, but I feel like there's something else here. But we'll go forward. It's
like that church time where the choir just keeps going. You're like, we got to move on. We got to move on. We got to move on.
I feel it now. So let's talk about these offers.
Okay.
And I know personally, I definitely need to hear this.
Okay.
And I'm sure there's people that are going to be listening that need to hear this too. So you said that you made $2 million in an hour. And you said that you don't believe in offers, or at the time you didn't believe in offers with...
I still don't believe in business offers that are cheap. Okay. That's my word, not even low. Cheap.
Okay, explain. So what do we do then?
Well, if you're charging something cheap, you need to have a proper context as to why something is priced a certain way. It's either a few things. Either someone doesn't believe in themselves, someone's trying to get you in the door, which is not a bad thing. You can market your services at a lower price point for people to get an experience with what you do. Okay. But I have very low confidence in the caliber or the quality of transformation, because I know that if my pricing is just a small statement of my self-worth.
Okay.
It's not my worth and it's not my self-worth, but it is a communication tool to let people know I value what I've been through, I value what I've learned, and I value who I want you to become.
Okay. And this is what your price communicates.
I believe so.
Okay.
And so you'll attract people who are actually looking for elevation, not just a quick change in their life. And it should be difficult. I believe this wholeheartedly. So I used to do scholarships. I used to believe in, I think my ministry heart, I didn't come from a ministry background. I just call it now that side of us that wants to help people. Everyone has a story, and I would listen to them and be swayed, and I was like, okay, well, let's give them a discount, or let's let them do a 2-for-1. And what I found out is that they didn't complete the work, and they were the most likely to complain.
Very much so. I've seen that too.
To complain. 2011 was a really disruptive and important moment. I had my second event. At that time, I did 6 figures in an hour. It was the first time I made 6 figures in 1 hour. And that showed me about the power of high-end offers. Yeah. And I remember I used to make that in a year, right? And I did that, and I was like, oh. And it took the stress off. I also believe in high-end offers. I'll finish this point, but I also believe in high-end offers because I believe for women, we need margin in our lives. For me to be able to generate in an hour what it would usually take me 40 plus hours working at a law firm of billable hours. To get 40 billable hours, there's probably 60 actual hours.
Okay.
Right? And to be able to do that in an hour, it changed my perception. I remember being able to just be at my parents' house and go for walks and just, got a client here. And it was lighter. Yeah. But I was at that same event. This beautiful thing had just happened. Someone came up in the line. I remember her name. I'm not going to say your name, but I remember your name because you were my teacher that day. The event is over. I had sponsors from HP, Office Depot, Home Depot, Ernst & Young. No, not Ernst & Young. Delta Airlines. Oh, yeah. EY was there as well. And Black Enterprise was my media sponsor, and CNN.
Nice.
And I gave out this playbook. I always do playbooks at my events. And this woman came up and she says, well, I didn't really feel like I got the value of what I invested here for. And I'm listening and I'm thinking about, does she even realize what's in that? And this gentleman, this African-American male who came as a sponsored client, HP had the opportunity to send 10 businesses that were already 7, 8, and some 9-figure businesses to my event to learn about how to brand themselves.
Okay.
And so he was a part of that leadership team. The whole leadership team came, and then he was like, I have been to conferences my whole life. We go to a lot of events. He goes, I've never been to anything like this. And he says, I was listening. I'm not sure exactly what she said. I'll always remember this moment. He said, it sounded like she said she was disappointed. And I said, I don't even know how you could breathe the air in here.
Yeah.
And not be grateful for just being present. And he said, as for me, my cup is full. And then he started to sing some beautiful song to me that just filled me back up. Because if that had been the last thing on my mind after pouring out for 12 hours, 2 days in a row, and that was a heaven moment.
Yeah.
Right? To sew that up. And what I learned, she taught me two things. One, in my mind, I'm like, you got a discount. You barely even paid to be here, right? And you have no appreciation because your heart wasn't fully in it. Where your treasure is, your heart is also, your heart wasn't even fully in it. And then I did learn from her a valuable lesson though. The importance of anchoring your materials, of helping people to understand the priceless nature and value of what you've given them.
Okay.
So I learned from that point on how to anchor my supporting materials so that, and I tell people now, I said, let's go through, I'm going to remind you not only what you're getting, while you're in it, I'm going to remind you what you have, and when you're done, I'm going to remind you what you received. And I said, and I always put it back on people now, I said, with this, 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 and this, should you not be able to make it do what it do? Because I don't build for you. I don't bake cakes for anybody but my kids.
Yeah.
So, and if you do not win here, it's on you. It's not because of my material. So she was a teacher in two respects, that it is not my job to go, it's like the prophet. Why we got all these Bible stories, Teri?
Because we're women of God. It just naturally flows out of us.
You know the woman with the jars of oil? And she went to the prophet, and he said, what do you already have? That was a huge teaching moment for me in reading it and understanding that story in the context of doing the work of what I call life-changing. To me, it's not really coaching. I say at our company, we help life changers. We change the lives of those who change lives. And he could not change her life for her. If he had said, okay, I'll give this to you, she would not have experienced what anointing looks like. She wouldn't have experienced the flow of the oil. She wouldn't experience that. So you cannot block somebody else's doubt, fear, and struggle. You can only guide them into a better strategy and a better way. And that's why I believe our goal as whatever industry, you might be in, our goal should not just be helping people get outcomes. You can have that as a goal, but I just think there's just a greater sense of joy in helping people become better people.
Okay.
Right? And we were talking about Miss USA,
Yes.
who took her life, and it resonates very close for me as a former Miss America contestant. I used to work with Miss America, Miss USA's, Miss Universes. I'm a Black female and a lawyer.
Yes.
And doing media. And so all of those things, I believe that the call in this season should not just be to go after the bag and we're losing our being. We're going after the bag and we're losing our being.
So the story hit me as well. So what was crazy is after I heard about her name, I went to her IG and everything looked fine.
Looks great.
She's, getting her picture taken, but you could kind of, like, there was one picture I looked at and I could kind of see that, like, she was doing all the moves, but it seemed like a little bit like, and maybe I put myself into it because I've been in times like this where I'm doing all the things, but inside I'm feeling kind of like, I really don't want to do this. I don't want to be here right now.
We make ourselves go through it.
And I wonder, like, why do we do that, do you think?
Well, there's practical reasons. Sometimes we have responsibilities. When I was engaged previously to getting married to an amazing man, but I called my wedding off 6 days before because I found out my fiance was cheating on me. I had this over-the-top wedding. I closed my sports agency down. I didn't know how I was going to pay my bills because I closed my sports agency down to become a wife and a bonus mom to his kids. So these
shut your life
I
down
shut it all down
so that you could be ready for this new marriage, new life.
The idea, because he had a successful company, and he said, you've been working, you've been in school, and I don't think you've had a break since kindergarten. And when he said that, that really hit me, and I was like, I haven't. I've been going after all these goals, achieving so many of them, and I thought, this sounds great. Let me just exhale for a moment. And I didn't have a plan B. So I didn't know how I was going to pay my bills. I called the wedding off, and I called the marriage off too, not just the wedding, but the marriage. And so, in my book, Believe Bigger, kind of goes through that. That's what I would call a split rock moment. It's one of these moments of disruption that radically shakes up your life. Not just an inconvenience, but the course of your life changes. I didn't know I was going to pay my bills. I was embarrassed. I'm very highly degreed. And I remember a couple of days later, well, two things happened. I had to call Essence Magazine and I had to ask them to pay for my ticket to come to a conference that I was supposed to speak at, because I was supposed to have already been married and moved to Chicago to be there already for it.
Oh, wow.
Now I've got this $40,000 wedding bill. And they didn't even ask questions as to why, they just booked it. And then I also remember Tiger Woods was cheating on his wife. And you can still go back on YouTube and see the videos of me being on ESPN. And if you look, you can see my eyes were red. So we know how to suit up. We keep pushing through. We maintain the brand. We maintain our families. We maintain the bag. We do the things. And this is how it's easy for us to lose people. In my membership, my Destiny Collective, I told the women, we were supposed to be studying supernatural vision, or no, just supernatural vision. I could call everything supernatural. And I had a audible, for those who don't watch football, that's like a real-time pivot. At the line of scrimmage, I said, we're going to study supernatural appreciation this month. So we have been doing 28 days of re-anchoring our minds, and I said, no, we should lose nobody on our watch. Not just I hit these money milestones, like we should lose nobody on our watch.
Yeah.
And I love that. I believe when just sitting with you, there's a depth that people are going to continue to learn great strategy, but I feel they're also going to believe in their worthiness beyond just their bank account.
Thank you.
And that's what anyone who considers themselves a coach, a podcaster, an influencer, I think it is an important thing. If I could honor anything about Chelsea, I didn't know her. I have friends who know her. I watched her win. And if I could honor anything about what message I feel, because you can see I've got goosebumps whenever I think about her. It is, we should be responsible life changers, not just success sellers. Mm-hmm. We don't just sell success. We don't just sell outcomes. And you may have moments in your business that are not as glossy and fancy and successful. But I do believe that you'll gain a deepening in terms of your substance.
What about when earlier you and I were talking about how we as Black women can support each other?
Yeah.
What are some ways you think that we can support each other?
We can say, I'm proud of you.
Yes.
That's one thing we can do and mean it. Mm-hmm. We can pray for someone without having to tell them I'm praying for you. You can tell them, but sometimes I've noticed that a lot of times people have a word, and sometimes people want to be seen as the person who has a word for you. So genuinely caring about people. I think we can support each other in our joint ventures and business endeavors. If you have a friend that has a book, treat that book launch like it was your own. You may not be able to do that for a lot of people because it may not be safe to do that.
Right.
I don't just promote it.
They are.
You gotta trust who they are. I've become very cognizant of also being burned in a lot of situations, and so I believe in valuing your platform. And at the same time, though, if there's somebody who I believe in, why should God trust me if I'm hoarding it for myself, or if I'm afraid of what somebody else is going to, people will do. So we have to get out of the crabs in a barrel. And I also think that, we can do business with each other in ways that complement. I don't think that you should, I do have one thing that I just adopted as a policy to make it easy. It's difficult to co-promote things when you sell the same service. Like Nike doesn't promote Adidas, and Adidas doesn't promote Nike. And so I always try to say, what else can I do? Can I help you with your books? But if it's the exact same service,
that's kind of hard.
It's hard, and it's like, that's just, but that is not the only dimension of support. right? We can mastermind, we can do other things. I may not be able to market the exact same service to my audience, or at least I've chosen not to. It just makes it easier for me to have one blanket no on that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to other things that you're doing, being a support behind the scenes, and if there are things I can support in front of the scenes, it doesn't mean I won't support your whole business. I just can't necessarily market your service that's in competition. And I feel a lot of peace. I used to be like, is that selfish? I was like, that's just wisdom.
I think that's okay. Yeah, like there's many of us that teach trading and finance. I think one way that I've partnered is like if we do a podcast or we do an event, all of us can get on the stage together and people will gravitate towards who they relate with.
Yes.
Just like there's a ton of churches on every corner, you'll go to the one who you feel like nurtures you. But it is kind of hard to send an email to your email list. It's like, buy somebody else's course. That's what I do, you know?
And that's fair. That's how, I think that's fair. And I don't think we should I don't think you can define what support looks like. Like in this season, as my parents get older, and I think it's important to redefine. This is something that I've really been sitting with God about, but redefining what a miracle looks like in our miracle mind. It's not always instant. And what I mean by miracle mind is there's an outcome that we think we want in business, in life, in health, relationships. And because it doesn't come a certain way, we think that it's not right. So in business, if people don't support us in a certain way, we think that they're not supportive because they didn't do what we wanted the way we wanted it, even if you did the same for them.
That's like relationships too. Like even if you're dating someone, you're like, you sure you're gonna hang it like that? Like if you just did it like this. They're like, look, it's getting hung. You asked me to hang it up.
It's like, but is it really, it's really control. I want to control how people support me. I don't have control over that. And I want, out of the overflow of someone's heart, to want to do it. And if they don't want to do it, what's the spirit behind them sending that email out anyway? What's the spirit behind? And so sometimes that may feel like you're growing slower. I believe you're growing deeper.
Okay.
You continue to work on your skill set, but also pray for circles that are outside of your current, what you think you need. I learned this, a lot of my lessons come the hard way, because then I get them.
Tell me about it. I want to
Just partnering with people that I thought I needed and had the resume. Clubhouse was just too much for me, the app Clubhouse.
Yeah, when everybody was on the phone and you can listen. In the beginning, I was on there for hours, but now I really am not on it anymore.
It was just a huge time drain. But then people had a voice and they didn't necessarily have substance. And it was an easy grab. But there were a lot of people who invested in a lot of hollow people because they sounded great.
They can talk. There's some people that can talk.
But there's neuro-linguistic programming. There's people know sales marketing. They know strategy. They know how to get you and convince you to do things. I had so many Black women message me about a particular person. I think this has been, I've not been on there in over a year and a half, but I just remember at the time there was this gentleman who was selling stuff, and I had like a ton of Black women message me. I think we called him out one day. I think I didn't, but I was in the room and I just didn't call him out, but I talked about the mindset of what is it when you feel like you have entitlement?
Yeah, entitlement.
Like privilege and entitlement. And, but the number of women who said they had invested and nothing happened, right? And it's not, sometimes you didn't do the work, but sometimes it's like there was like this coalition of people who knew they had this, it was like the forefront of this new territory being created. And here's the biggest thing. You shouldn't be scared in any streets if you know God. Right? You shouldn't be scared. You shouldn't be worried about if someone's trying to take something from you. That's not discernment. That's actually operating in fear. Discernment means that you have a vision for your life, first of all. You know who you are, and you know the caliber of values you want to have in people. Otherwise, someone can just flex a Lambo, and you go there, and then they say, well, God blesses, the person who does that. And if someone uses the name God, and you assume that they have similar values, just because how cheap is it to buy your attention with just a word and just a picture? And I feel like coaching in many ways has become money, power, and respect marketing.
And that's not good.
And it's dangerous for the souls of those we're supposed to be. I think you can either be a magician, a mechanic, or a mentor. And a magician does tricks. A lot of people are falling for these superficial, flashy tricks. It works. And those people probably are making great money. But do they have and then you've got the mechanics, they just solve a problem, maybe like a web designer or someone who solves something. But the mentor is somebody who's like a Mr. Miyagi. So I know that some of y'all have only seen the more recent Karate Kids, but I'm talking about like
really trained
real Karate Kid.
Okay.
Real Karate Kid, like
that what?
Wax on, wax off.
Right.
No, paint the fence, wax on, wax off, the original version. But Mr. Miyagi and was a mentor to Daniel. And Daniel didn't even realize that he was learning how to win because of that's a real mentor. And not everybody should be called a mentor in your life. Just because they have more than you doesn't mean they have the ability to usher you into a new place of wisdom. They may just be a teacher version of a mechanic. Like, I'm like, teach me how to do a funnel. Okay, the funnel this.
Here's the solve the problem.
That's the problem, solve the problem. But it doesn't mean they're your mentor. Does that mean they speak life into you? Because the word understanding, if you look at it, it means to stand under.
Okay.
So if you're going to stand under, you need to stand under someone's value system, their belief system. They may have money, but are they cheating on their wife?
See, and a lot of times if it's online, you don't really know about who they are as a person.
But you should be able to feel something.
Some kind of discernment, huh?
Yeah. Oh, you need discernment. But it's not, discernment doesn't mean you're not looking. It just means most people think they're discerning. They're just afraid and they think everybody's a bad option.
Okay.
But if you've been praying in advance, if you've been saying, God, this is what I want, as soon as you pray for God to expand you, you're asking for him to disrupt you. He's going to change some things, but you're also asking him to mature you.
Okay.
Meaning you're going to need to make a more mature investment, a more mature life decisions. And so he will bring people, and you should be able to see, I won't get into mantles on the Million podcast here, but you should look at, is this person living a glimpse of what I believe God has for me?
And the mantles, is that in your book? Just so that we can make sure that people get that?
There's a lot in Believe Bigger really about aligning. And I think the point of my devotional 100 Days of Believing Bigger is for you to get clear about what your mantle actually is. Like, what is it? You're not just believing bigger for more cars, a house, and this, especially women today. That's not really what we are built for. We're built to nurture and build anything. So when we have money, we are born to multiply it. Like, we're naturally multipliers, amplifiers, but we're also born to give birth to more people to come through that as well. If you look at the Proverbs 31 woman, you see her not just talked about as being celebrated, but she was mentoring. She was overseeing and helping. And I get this picture that she was ushering up and she was serving as an example. And if you look in the whole book of Proverbs, wisdom is always referred to in the feminine sense.
Wow.
It's always said she.
That's true. That's true.
I think that's why they didn't say her name at the end.
At the end of wisdom?
She's just called Proverbs 31.
Oh.
So if you look at the whole book of wisdom, it culminates.
Wisdom has a name? It's like, I didn't know that.
It says she. And if in this book of wisdom, if Solomon was the wisest man of all time, right? Mm-hmm. In the book of wisdom, about wisdom, it all culminates in the last chapter is the fulfillment of it. And we haven't been taught that. We've been taught to wear white at the Women's Day for the Proverbs 31 thingy.
And that's it.
We haven't been taught about we were born to operate in these mantles and these positions of grace, elegance, income, authority, motherhood, marriage. I see that all over you. Motherhood and marriage.
God.
I do.
Thank you.
And so operating in all of those spaces and places. But what's powerful about you is that you've stepped into your calling. And you don't want, as a single person, you do not want a man that is attracted to the fearful version of you. Because that's where you end up with Dre. Nothing wrong with Dre if you're a good Dre, but you know what I mean, Dre. And my husband calls it Dre.
Okay.
And I learned, when I had my first high-end mentor, I paid $12,000 the first time I did a mastermind with her. And then I grew so much, the next mastermind, I didn't tell anybody. I paid $50,000.
Okay.
I didn't tell nobody. And I actually asked her, she had a $100,000 program I thought would be a stretch for me at the time. I thought about it. I was 50,000. She goes, it's funny you asked this. I just mapped out one 2 days ago with my husband for a $50,000 mastermind. It was right there. I saw it.
Yeah.
And, but that was the year that I did $1 million in the first quarter.
So that,
right after
that investment worked. That
I
$50,000
said
investment.
I was ready. The investment said I was ready. But when I was talking to her about the program and what it would entail, and I said, but I'm fearful. One of my fears was if I kept growing, would I stay single?
Well, I mean, you're married now.
Well, now, but I wasn't then, right?
Yeah, what was the response?
She said, Marshawn, when you step in, he'll show up. When you really step in. So the last chapter in Believe Bigger, the book, I talk about stepping in. And my husband said those words to me one day when I was at another pivotal kind of crossroads moment. He has no idea that those are the words she spoke that brought him into my life.
Wow.
And that he now speaks for me to step into this next dimension. And so when you step in, everything that is in your promised land is over there. It's like in Genesis 12:1, it says, go to the place that I will show you.
Right.
You don't know exactly where that is. He's not saying get there. He's saying step in, like believe in yourself. He's saying believe that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. He's saying take a step that actually honors the fact that you're my daughter.
Yeah.
Right?
And if you're God's daughter and you're in his image, like how amazing are you?
And so the investment of $50,000, it wasn't $50,000. It was my heart was stepping in. I felt that thing. I went out and got an Amex Platinum card just so I could pay for it on that to build up my Amex situation. And because I wanted to get the points. I was like, if I'm going to be paying $50,000 on a credit card, I'm not just going to be putting it on a card with no real benefits or just a little bit of bank value. I said, I want some real value.
You get some points and a free flight or something.
And that, it's, investing in yourself is a constant journey. And it's part of, you cannot get a return on an investment that you never make.
Yes.
And I have three beautiful, I was previously engaged and was becoming a bonus mom to 3 kids. Unsure if I would be able to find a great man and if I could have children because it was taking us a while. But I became a birth mom to 3 babies in 6 minutes. I gave birth to triplets at the age of 40 in 2020, and that scripture, Ephesians 3:20, 3 babies in 2020, now unto him who's able to do exceeding and abundantly above all I could ever hope or imagine.
Yeah.
I have every understanding that when I stepped in, I was making room for what I experience now. We just bought a 24,000-foot estate.
Wow.
My girls are going to grow up with a different normal because I stepped in. And that's what it means to step in. It's not just about buying a course. It's not just about hiring a mentor. This is why you need to feel something should make your baby leap. You should feel something greater about the future when someone is truly a mentor.
Yeah.
And we should be asking, I believe the mentors come quickly when you ask for them and you say, I'm going to be ready. I'm willing to do not just what's convenient. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. They'll show up.
Tell me, and then we'll start wrapping up, but how did you feel, like, one, when the engagement ended, how did you feel then? And then how did you feel when, like, you met your husband and then ended up getting married? Now, and we'll come back to when you had the kids, but just how did you feel?
It's a great question. So I told you, we did this live event where we did $2 million in an hour. Right before that event, that was a spring event, that December when we were getting ready to market, I heard in my spirit, this is the last time you're going to do it. I'm like, no, we're just figuring out what we're doing. I got the team, we got a flow, we know what we're doing. And he's like, this is the last time. So I told people that, and they're like, oh, you're just saying that I said, you will never hear me say in anything out loud in the public that God said if I don't really believe he said that. I'm not saying I'm not infallible and I may miss it sometimes, but I truly believe it when I say it out loud because I never want God to remove my platform, remove my blessings because I'm being lazy with this word. And too much spiritual abuse has happened from pulpits of people just saying that. But it was the last time we've done that event. We did $2 million in that hour, and then it wasn't 3 months, it turned into about a 3-year sabbatical. Wow. An agent reached out to me that summer, and I started working on the book, Believe Bigger. And I realized it was important for me to tell the truth about success. That when that wedding was called off 6 days before, I was humiliated and I entered into a place of depression. Like just getting out of the bed. I was a virgin when I was engaged, and I was a virgin when I got married. I really was trying to walk this path, and I'm like, so this is my reward after trying to do all of the right things? Mm-hmm. And part of you knows that it's for your protection when you find out things and being able, because look, I understand how women can end up in jail. I understand.
You almost killed him.
He was on the plane on his way to Atlanta for wedding week, and you got to get the book.
Okay.
You got to get the book.
Here, look at this one. Tell them you got to get the book.
You got to get the book. Get your whole life, edges you didn't even know needed to grow back.
Oh,
we'll
man.
Get together. But I did. I'm thankful that Homeland Security was at the airport that day.
Wow. And I'm grateful for grace. Amazing grace is not this beautiful, sweet thing. Grace is actually a battle protection. It is a hedge of protection. I had my right mind for enough time to get to the airport and back, but then I had to deal with life. And your heart doesn't stop. Your love doesn't stop. And they called me Mimi, but the kids, I was ready to be their mom. Yeah, you were about to step into
nighttime
this in 6
baths.
days.
Yes. And I had bought jewelry for them for the ceremony. Like it was my whole, it was devastating. But then I'm like, how did I end up here? Like, this doesn't happen to me. I don't make these kind of choices. How did I not know?
Yeah. How long had it been happening?
Oh, you got to get the book.
Okay, got to get the book. We reading this book, y'all. I'm reading this book.
You got to get the book. And, it's one thing when you start to doubt, is the sky really blue? You just become very protective and guarded and angry. And a lot of the mental health problems that we have are contributed to by relationships. I think that we should have more grace with each other as opposed to just calling women crazy, because it's that a lot of men have dangled our emotions in our minds. And I will say, for all of that to happen, I probably had the best of the worst scenario, in the sense that at least he helped me take care of the wedding bills.
Oh, that's
He
good.
didn't want me to struggle.
Wondering, when you said
He
that
was a great
$40,000
man.
bill,
He's a great man who had issues.
Okay.
So he never wanted me to struggle. He helped me with that whole transition. And I'm grateful for that. I had friends going through divorces where they shared a kid at the same time, and they could barely get the dad to pay $1 for their own child. So I still had grace in that, but it was still beneath me to stay in it. And people say you were very strong. I was like, no, I had grace. I had amazing grace that day, which was enough for me to, I even tried to give the ring back. I'm glad he didn't, because I needed to save that in case. I didn't even know I was going to need to keep that ring to be able to possibly sell it for money, because I didn't know I was going to pay my bills. So I've been at that rock bottom season. I think it's a big driver of why I want women to understand their own identity, to have the confidence that they can always generate their own income, that you don't stay in something just because someone can put a roof over your head, but you need a roof over your head, and you need a safe place for your kids, and you don't know what else to do. And so this is why it has been such bad training and teaching that we've been taught for so many years about our place.
Yep.
And we need to step out of it being a place. It's anything that a woman grows into does not reduce who a man has always been and who they're supposed to be. There's no, a man should be honored to cover the greatness of a woman, to be the covering of that, because he is blessed. He receives favor from his union and his partnership and his connection with you. And so, but we've been taught so many bad things, and it's why the work you do is so important. And I hope that we can do something together one day.
I do too. I think it'd be phenomenal. Oh, there's so much, and I'm learning so much. We didn't even we started on the offers.
They've learned a little bit about offers.
So like we got to make sure that like we learn all that from you. But you said you don't do the event anymore. How do people learn from you now?
So you can go to marshawn.com,
Okay.
and that's the best place to click the button that says start here, and you can get whatever the free life class is available at the time.
Okay.
And my books, Believe Bigger and 100 Days of Believing Bigger. If you're an ambitious woman and a man, look, just because, talk to this camera for a second. Just because it's got a little pink doesn't mean that the wisdom won't set you up for your next level. And that's the issue. Like, you ask men how many books they have by women, it's not very many. So it's pink because that's good marketing. We're marketing it to the women in pink, okay?
Right.
But
you can still learn something.
if you are looking for your ambition to be discipled, my desire is to help women to continue to be successful in business, to change their money mindset, but also to disciple their ambition. As we say at our company, your ambition is welcome here.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. Oh. Okay, so technically the interview is over. But for people who stayed all the way to the end, this is going to be kind of a juicy question.
Okay.
So,
I'm going to get in the juicy position.
Right. So, what had happened was, recently it was revealed, so I'm a virgin too.
Okay.
And I heard you say that you were a virgin when you got married.
Yes.
So, any tips or thoughts for me as I go through that season? Because part of me sometimes feels like, well, maybe that's why.
No, it's not why.
Okay.
So many things. So the word gift, my acronym for gift, God speaks to me a lot in acronyms. He has since I was in college.
Wow.
And I used to always journal them. And so gift stands for God's intended future treasures. Remember, I had an athlete client once who wanted to take me on a date, and I was like, do you know how many women I have seen? Like, do you know? Like, you know how many women I see come in and out. We had to wake him up one day. We couldn't even get him ready for his event because we had to get hotel staff to let us in the room. And I'm like, laid up under a person, right? So look, I've been in that space, and I remember telling him, I said, so if you say all of these things, I just wanted to teach him for a moment. I said, if you say all of these things, he said, I'm going to marry you one day. I was like, okay. The retainer's coming through. It's on auto pay. But I said, if there's a gift box, and it's a beautiful gift box, and it's right there in front of you, but you choose to go open up everything else around it, and then you come back and say, okay, now I'm ready to open up this gift box. How foolish to expect that person would just sit there and wait while also watching.
Right. I
all
think
of
people
that.
don't realize, we see what you do.
Yeah.
So how can I be that valuable?
Someone who doesn't wait they may see the gift. People can see your gift. And gifted with the blessing that's upon you, it will feel very isolating in relationships. But I always hashtag everything with my husband and with my kids. I always say it's worth the wait.
Yes.
It is worth the wait. And it will not even be a problem or a challenge when you meet the right man, when you meet the one, because he will see this as an answer to his prayer. Whether or not he's a virgin or not, he will see it as, I've been waiting for someone who would make me work to get in the box. And that pursuit, that courtship, is a statement of what they bring to not just the wedding, but to the marriage. That's what I believe. I think we overvalue the message around sex in the church. I'm not saying that people don't have incredible marriages that are full of the Holy Spirit with or without. But if he's put you on a path for a certain reason, you have no idea what you're avoiding. I believe that is a part of why I was spared 6 days before my wedding, when the number of women who reached out to me and said, I should have called mine off, or I knew, or I heard out the day before and I didn't have the courage to do it. That's why I say it was amazing grace. I am not some special, spectacular human being in that I'm still a woman. And thankfully, we didn't have kids together yet. And I didn't have my finances tied up in his life to where I couldn't make my own decisions. I recognize there's a difference there. But if that's important to you, then if you start compromising early, you'll have a marriage of compromise. They'll continue. And if someone ever makes you feel less than, something that's a part of a path that's a holy path for you, you don't want that. And it'll be worth the wait. And you're going to have your kids, your girls, are going to have an example that they don't have to look outside of their house for.
Amen.
Amen.
I love you so much. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
We'll have to have you on again so you can talk about the triplets.
Yes, yes. And we've got to get them, we've got to learn some investing tips for them. And I was asking my husband, we were talking about what percentage of our money is here, and there. And we were talking about that. I said, okay, maybe some Teri will rub off on me as well. I want to learn more about, I know, even my makeup artist this morning, she was talking about bad investments that she made or just being unclear and just being scared to do it again.
Yep.
And I'm like, we've got to change that.
Definitely. Well, I'm here.
You are.
Let's do it.
You're really here. Like, she did the thing. She's not just a little bit here.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining in with us. I hope that you had a great time listening and learned so many gems from Marshawn here. Make sure to check her out. And you said it's Marshawn Evans.
Marshawn.com.
Marshawn.com. Thank you, because I was going to say it wrong. Marshawn.com. Check her out. We'll have more links from her below. All right, talk to you guys later.